Have you ever had the strange sensation that you're living a life that feels borrowed? As if you're walking through the world wearing clothes that don't quite fit, too tight in some places, too loose in others. Yet you keep wearing them because everyone insists they look perfect on you. Maybe you've felt it when you wake up in the morning and before your feet touch the floor, a quiet whisper rises from somewhere deep inside. This isn't who I really am. And yet, you continue. You go through the routines. You say the lines you've learned to say. You carry yourself in the way you've been taught to carry yourself. And everyone around you nods, approvingly, convinced that you've figured out life. But then, when night arrives and the world finally grows quiet, something unsettling begins to stir. A question you try to drown out. A question that chases you from childhood into adulthood. Who am I? Beneath everything I pretend to be? Philosophers, psychologists, mystics, they've all grappled with this question. But one person, perhaps more than anyone, devoted his life to understanding why we lose ourselves and how we might find ourselves again. Carl Jung. Jung believed that the feeling of inner disconnection, the sense that you're living somehow outside yourself, is not an accident. It is not a flaw. It is not madness. It is the beginning of a journey. A journey that most people never dare to take. Today, we're going to explore that journey, and we're going to do it together, step by step. If you're ready to look inward, if you're ready to peel back the layers, if you're ready to discover the person who has been quietly waiting for you your entire life, then let's begin. From the moment you were born, the world began shaping you, not out of malice, usually not even on purpose, but out of expectations. Be good, be quiet, be agreeable, be successful, be strong, be polite, be whatever makes life easier for everyone else. Little by little, whether you realize it or not, you learned a crucial lesson. Certain parts of you are acceptable, and certain parts of you are not. So you adapted. You smiled when you didn't want to. You stayed silent when your heart was screaming. You followed paths because others applauded you for walking them. You built your personality like a beautifully decorated shield. Jung had a name for this social adaptation: the persona. The persona is not a lie. It's a role, a practical tool, a way to function in society. We all need one. Without a persona, we couldn't interact with the world. But here's the danger. Sometimes the mask fits so well that we forget it isn't our face. Think about it. Have you ever laughed along with a group even though you didn't find the joke funny? Have you ever supported an idea just to avoid conflict? Have you ever adopted opinions, hobbies, or ambitions simply because they were expected of you? This is how the persona grows. It starts as a costume, then it becomes armor, then it becomes your identity, and you begin living a life that feels strangely distant, like a movie you're watching rather than one you're actually in. The tragedy is that society often rewards this. People praise you for being so put together, so stable, so normal. But inside, something starts to ache. A quiet emptiness, a persistent sense that something is missing, a feeling that you're drifting further and further away from something essential, though you can't quite name it. What you're sensing is not failure. It is disconnection from your true self. And that disconnection has a counterpart. If the persona is the mask you show the world, then what happens to the parts of you that don't fit the mask? Those parts don't disappear. They fall into the shadows. Most people spend their lives avoiding the darker corners of their inner world. Not because they're cowards, but because no one ever taught them how to look inside without fear. Jung believed that everything we push away, fears, impulses, memories, desires, vulnerabilities, doesn't vanish. It becomes the shadow. Now, the shadow is often misunderstood. People imagine it as something sinister, something evil, something shameful lurking inside us. But that isn't quite accurate. The shadow is simply the part of you that was never given permission to exist. Maybe you were curious, but people told you curiosity was annoying. Maybe you were expressive, but people told you to calm down. Maybe you were sensitive, but people told you sensitivity was weakness. Maybe you felt anger, but people told you anger was unacceptable. So these qualities didn't disappear. They simply retreated underground, into the unconscious. And from there, they influence you quietly. A sudden outburst that surprises you. A jealousy you deny feeling. A habit of self-sabotage you can't explain. A pattern of running from intimacy, responsibility, ambition, or vulnerability. These are not random behaviors. They are signals, messages, echoes from the part of your psyche you've been ignoring. But here's the twist. The shadow isn't just where your fears live. It's also where your greatness lives. Your creativity, your intuition, your courage, your authenticity, your passions, your emotional depth, your unrealized potential. All of it waits in the shadow. And until you turn inward and meet it, you will feel the constant pull of something missing, because you are literally missing parts of yourself. But how do you face this hidden side without being overwhelmed by it? To answer that, we need to talk about perhaps Jung's most profound insight: the self. If the persona is the mask, and the shadow is the hidden material behind it, then the self is the whole being beneath those layers. The self is not your personality. It is not your emotions. It is not your thoughts, your preferences, your successes, or your failures. The self is the core of who you are. It is the quiet observer behind your experience. The deep intelligence guiding your growth. The inner compass that knows long before your mind understands. Jung believed the self is not something you create. It is something you recover. It already exists within you, unchanged, untouched, patiently waiting. But why is it so hard to find? Because the persona tries to protect you, and the shadow tries to warn you, and both can drown out the voice of the self. To reach it, you must be willing to peel back layers you've spent years, sometimes decades, constructing. You must question beliefs you've carried without knowing why. You must challenge roles you didn't choose. You must examine the stories you've told yourself about who you are and what you deserve. You must confront the fears that have shaped your habits and choices. And this journey, this unraveling, this awakening, is what Jung called individuation. Not independence, not isolation, not rebellion, but becoming whole. Individuation is the process of integrating the persona, confronting the shadow, listening to the unconscious, and gradually aligning your outer life with your inner truth. Most people never attempt this, not because they're incapable, but because individuation demands something rare: the courage to see yourself honestly. And honesty, when turned inward, can be terrifying. You may discover that the career you built doesn't reflect your real values. You may discover that the relationships you stay in don't match your emotional needs. You may discover that your ambitions were never truly yours, but inherited expectations. You may discover that your silence, your people-pleasing, your perfectionism, your defensiveness, your anger are not your essence, but symptoms of wounds you've never addressed. But here's the miracle. Every layer you peel back frees you. Every truth you face strengthens you. Every shadow you embrace enriches you. Every illusion you release brings you closer to the self. And when you begin living from the self, not the persona, not the shadow, but the full integrated self, your life changes in ways that feel almost magical. Decisions become clearer. Relationships become more honest. Desires become more aligned. Suffering becomes more meaningful. And the emptiness that used to follow you begins to dissolve. But we're not done. Because to understand yourself fully, you must explore the forces that shape you even deeper than your memories or your upbringing. You must enter the realm of archetypes. You might believe your mind is entirely your own, that your preferences, behaviors, and reactions are personal and unique. But Jung discovered something astonishing. Beneath the individual unconscious lies another layer, a vast ancient psychological inheritance shared by all human beings. He called it the collective unconscious. Within it live archetypes, universal patterns of behavior, emotion, and thought, symbols older than languages, motifs that appear in stories across every culture, every religion, every era. The hero, the sage, the lover, the rebel, the caregiver, the explorer, the innocent, the destroyer, the creator. These are not characters in fiction. They are psychological energies within you. Some dominate your personality. Some lie dormant. Some call you toward growth. Some keep you frozen in fear. For example, if the hero archetype drives you, you may feel compelled to prove yourself, to overcome challenges, to rescue others, to the point of exhaustion. If the caregiver leads your psyche, you may feel responsible for everyone else's well-being, often forgetting your own needs. If the sage archetype awakens, you may be drawn to philosophy, introspection, and understanding, sometimes retreating too deeply into your mind. If the rebel gains strength, you may instinctively challenge rules, traditions, and authority, sometimes constructively, sometimes destructively. Archetypes are neither good nor bad. They are energies, potentials, patterns. And the danger is not in having them. Everyone does. The danger is when you identify with only one. Because when a single archetype dominates, it restricts your growth and blinds you to other parts of your own nature. A hero who never rests burns out. A caregiver who never receives collapses. A rebel who never reflects destroys more than they create. A sage who never engages becomes a prisoner of their own mind. To know yourself is to understand the archetypes influencing your choices. To become yourself is to integrate them. And integration is the heart of individuation. Individuation is not a quick process. It is not a weekend revelation or a sudden breakthrough. It is a lifelong unfolding. It begins the moment you start asking, is the life I'm living truly mine? And it unfolds through stages. 1. Recognizing the persona, you start noticing the masks you wear and the moments they slip. 2. Meeting the shadow. You face the emotions you avoid, the memories you suppress, the patterns you deny. 3. Listening to the unconscious dreams, intuition, synchronicities, symbolic moments. These become guideposts. 4. Engaging the archetypes. You learn which energies empower you, which ones mislead you, and which ones you've been neglecting. 5. Integrating opposites. This is the heart of the journey. Strength with vulnerability, logic with emotion, discipline with spontaneity, masculine with feminine, persona with shadow. 6. Becoming the self. This is not the end, but the beginning. A life where your actions reflect your truth, your relationships reflect your values, your choices arise from your center, and your inner world finally aligns with your outer life. The self is not perfection. It is wholeness, and wholeness is the true source of meaning. Let's return to that emptiness you sometimes feel, that ache, that confusion, that longing for something. Society tells you it's because you need more success, more validation, more money, more productivity. But the truth is much simpler. You feel lost because you are being called back to yourself. You feel restless because parts of you are tired of being ignored. You feel empty because the life you're living no longer aligns with the person you're becoming. This discomfort is not a punishment. It is an invitation. The moment you begin listening, everything changes. You stop chasing approval. You stop tolerating relationships that drain you. You stop pursuing goals that aren't yours. You stop betraying your own needs, and you start moving toward authenticity. This is the beginning of real freedom. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from illusion. Finding yourself is not a mystical accident, it's a practice. Here are 4 starting points to guide your inward journey. 1. Notice your masks. Ask yourself, who am I with strangers? Who am I with friends? Who am I when I'm alone? Where do these versions differ? Your persona reveals itself through contrast. 2. Observe your reactions. Every strong emotion, anger, jealousy, anxiety, defensiveness, is a message from the shadow. Instead of judging it, ask, what is this trying to protect? What part of me is hurting? What am I avoiding? 3. Pay attention to recurring patterns. If a mistake repeats, it's not a mistake, it's a lesson. Life echoes until you listen. 4. Spend time in silence. Jung believed that the unconscious speaks quietly. You cannot hear it if your life is too loud. Meditation, journaling, long walks, solitude, they are not luxuries. They are doorways. Individuation starts with small steps. Consistency matters more than intensity. Every moment of honesty is a victory. Every shadow faced is growth. Every mask removed is a return. Before we continue forward, we need to address a fundamental question. If discovering the self is so transformative, why do so few people attempt it? It seems strange, doesn't it? Something inside us longs for authenticity, for meaning, for inner clarity. Yet we resist the very journey that would give us exactly that. Why? Because self-discovery requires us to walk into the unknown, and human beings fear the unknown more than almost anything. When you start examining yourself, you are forced to confront possibilities you've avoided for years. Maybe I've been living someone else's dream. Maybe I've been pretending to be someone I'm not. Maybe the things I was taught about myself weren't true. Maybe my fears are larger than I want to admit. Maybe the life I've built is too small for me. These aren't questions you can casually answer. They demand radical honesty. They demand vulnerability. They demand courage. It's far easier and far more comfortable to maintain the illusion that everything is fine, to stick with the familiar, even if it suffocates you. Jung once said something remarkable. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. We drown ourselves in distractions, endless scrolling, constant noise, frantic busyness, because silence threatens to reveal truths we're not ready to face. But here's something no one tells you. The part of yourself you fear the most is often the doorway to the life you want the most. Your fear is not a stop sign. It's a compass. The moment you begin moving toward the things you're afraid to confront, you start reclaiming pieces of yourself that you thought were lost forever. Fear isn't the enemy. Avoidance is. And the more you avoid, the more lost you feel. But the moment you turn inward, even slightly, you break the spell. Every generation has its own mythology, stories that shape what we believe a good life looks like. Today's mythology is built around productivity, performance, and perfection. We're constantly told to hustle harder, stay busy, achieve more, never slow down, always be improving. The result? People become experts in doing but strangers to being. We learn to optimize our schedules, but not our souls. We learn to polish our image, but not our identity. We learn to pursue accomplishments, but not meaning. The world rarely asks you, who are you really? Instead, it asks, what do you do? What have you achieved? How productive are you? How much are you worth? And eventually, without realizing it, you adopt these questions as your own. You start treating yourself like a project to be fixed, or a product to be improved, or a performer who must constantly earn applause. But human beings are not machines. Your value doesn't come from the roles you fill or the trophies you collect. Your value comes from the truth of who you are when everything else is stripped away. The tragedy of modern life is not that we work too much. It's that we forget why we're alive in the first place. Jung understood this deeply. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But that privilege is often buried beneath expectations, obligations, and distractions. To find yourself, you must be willing to step away from the noise. You must create space for your inner voice to speak, because the self does not shout, it whispers. And you can't hear a whisper if your life is too loud. One of the most challenging parts of individuation is the realization that growth often requires loss. When you evolve internally, your external life must eventually transform as well. This can mean ending relationships that no longer nurture you, letting go of dreams that were never truly yours, walking away from identities that no longer fit, questioning beliefs you once held sacred, allowing parts of yourself to die so new parts can emerge. And here's something few people admit. Growth hurts. Not because becoming yourself is painful, but because shedding the false self is. It's like removing armor you've worn your entire life. Even if the armor is heavy, even if it restricts your movement, even if it makes you tired, you've grown accustomed to it. And taking it off makes you feel exposed, raw, vulnerable, uncertain. This is why many people begin their inner journey, feel the first sting of transformation, and then retreat back into familiar patterns. Not because they lack strength, but because no one ever taught them that the discomfort is a sign of progress. In fact, Jung emphasized that individuation always involves tension, the tension between who you were and who you are becoming. The key is not to eliminate the tension, but to learn how to live inside it. Like a seed breaking open before it becomes a tree, or a caterpillar dissolving before it becomes a butterfly, you too must pass through a stage of disruption before reaching a stage of expansion. The old self resists its own dissolution. The new self is not yet fully formed. You stand between them, in the liminal space of transformation. And that space, uncomfortable as it is sacred. Jung believed that the unconscious mind does not speak in the language of logic. It speaks in the language of symbols. This is why dreams feel so mysterious. It's why certain images, stories, or myths resonate with you in ways you can't explain. It's why synchronicities, meaningful coincidences, feel significant even when they defy rational interpretation. These experiences are not random. They are expressions of your deeper psyche. The unconscious uses metaphor, imagery, and symbolism because that is the only language broad enough to express truths bigger than your intellect. For example, a dream about drowning might symbolize emotional overwhelm. A recurring image of a locked door might represent a part of yourself you are afraid to explore. A sudden encounter with an old friend might reflect an unresolved aspect of your past seeking integration. When you learn to pay attention to these symbols, you begin to unlock parts of yourself that have been hidden from conscious awareness. Your unconscious becomes a guide, a mentor, a partner on the journey to wholeness. But this requires openness. If you dismiss your dreams, ignore your intuitions, or explain away your emotional reactions, you silence the very voice trying to help you evolve. The unconscious is not your enemy. It is your deepest ally, but it speaks softly. You must learn how to listen. People often misunderstand authenticity. They imagine it means say whatever you feel, or reject all expectations, or be unapologetically yourself. But true authenticity is quieter than that. Authenticity means acting from alignment rather than fear, choosing based on values rather than pressure, allowing yourself to be seen without performing, being honest with yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, living in a way that reflects your inner truth. Authenticity isn't loud. It isn't rebellious for the sake of rebellion. It isn't dramatic. Authenticity is stable, centered, grounded. It's a life where your inner world and your outer world are no longer at war. You don't pretend. You don't hide. You don't shrink. You don't inflate yourself. You simply are. And this is why authenticity feels so peaceful. When you stop performing, you reclaim energy you didn't even realize you were wasting. When you stop hiding, you free yourself from anxiety. When you stop living for others, you create space for your real life to begin. The most profound transformation is not becoming someone new. It is returning to the person you were before the world told you who to be. You may not realize it yet, but simply by watching this video, you have already stepped onto the path of individuation. You have already shown curiosity. You have already confronted discomfort. You have already allowed a deeper part of yourself to whisper, "There is more to me than the life I've been living." The journey ahead will not always be easy. There will be days when you feel lost, days when the old mask tempts you, days when your shadow asks for more courage than you think you have. But remember this: the self has been guiding you long before you knew its name. You are not creating yourself. You are rediscovering yourself. And every step you take toward authenticity, every moment you choose awareness over habit, every truth you choose over comfort, brings you closer to the person you were always meant to become. The world doesn't need another perfect image. It needs people who know themselves deeply, people who live their truth courageously, people who are whole, and that can be you. Your journey has already begun.